Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I think hopefully what I'll be able to provide you guys is a few extra tools to be able to better support some of your families that are being posted OUTCAN. Jonathan, do you want me to turn on the camera? Doesn't really matter, does it?
It doesn't really matter. It makes it a bit more interactive, but...
Okay. If you guys hear noise in the background, I apologize in advance. I'm doing this from my home office, and of course the recycle truck has decided to come around exactly at noon. So if you don't hear something that I say or you need some clarification, please feel free to put up your hand, and I'll be happy to kind of repeat if I need to. So throughout this brief, we're going to go over a couple things. We're going to go over how military family services in Europe is a little bit different than in Canada, a little bit different than some of the MFRCs. We're going to go over a little bit of an overview of some of the programs and services that are available to our families when they arrive, and maybe give you guys some resources that you can provide to your families. And then I'm going to let you guys know how you can connect to our MFS Europe team in case you have questions that come to you from families that you might not be able to answer or that you want clarification on. I'll introduce you to what our team looks like and, again, just give you some more resources. Before we get started, how many of you actually have families this year that are headed to OUTCAN Europe? If you can just give a check mark, maybe. Do I see anybody have a, I'm just trying to go back over the participants. For some reason I can't seem to scroll down, but is there anyone on there, Jonathan? I can't scroll down for some reason.
Yep.
There's a couple who have some.
Five.
Oh, there's 5. Wow, that's great.
Yep.
Awesome. So hopefully this is going to be helpful for you guys. So we'll get right into it because I really want to make sure to allow enough time for you guys to be able to answer some questions. So what's different from OUTCAN? What's the difference for OUTCAN to MFRCs? So service deliveries by MFRCs fall under MOUs with MFS, whereas we have a service level agreement with the chain of command, so that's a little different. You guys are military family resource centers, and we're military family service centers and sites throughout Europe. You guys have a board of directors. We have an advisory committee. You guys are able to fundraise. We are not able to in Europe. We're responsive to the chain of command, and both sides really work very closely with the chain of command, so that's very similar. You guys have non-NPF staff hired from the community, and all of our staff is actually NPF. One of the other major differences between us and MFRC in Canada is we have over 75% usage rate of from our families in OUTCAN, and you'll see as we go through this presentation why that is, why the need for our families to use our resource centers is so important based on the support systems that they have in the different countries that they're in. Here's kind of a glimpse into what Europe looks like as far as our family demographics. As you can see, we're spread all over the map, and there's some definitely unique challenges that families face OUTCAN, and the benefit of them being provided with as much information as possible in order to manage their expectations basically is what our hope is, even for this session as well. They face obviously language challenges, culture challenges, lack of resources in their community based on that language and culture, and geographic diversity. That's also a challenge for us in service delivery because we have families spread out all over Europe. Sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to reach them, and depending on the resiliency of a family when they come over, that can change what kind of reality they have as well. Just like in Canada, some families can be posted to different provinces and be able to be a little bit more resilient depending on what their experiences are, depending on what their support systems are, and the same is in Europe. These are some of the programs that we offer. Much of them are going to look a lot like the programs that you guys offer in your MFRCs, and they are very, very similar, except perhaps tailored to a Europe reality. We're constantly building and updating programs as our demographics change, just as you are as well, I'm sure. Information and referral is probably one of our key services because we're a really small organization in Europe, so we're constantly evolving to deliver as many services as possible as well as making sure that we don't have any duplications of effort. So we try to partner with other nations. So a lot of the bases have several different nations on the base that have different activities, events, services that they're able to offer to their families, and sometimes they have those open to our Canadian families as well. So we definitely try to make sure lack of duplication of effort as much as possible. One of our objectives is to link our families with those available services as soon as they come in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through some of the programs individually. So upon arrival, first of all, when we first get a posting message from a family, our very first communication with them is to send an email to the member, let them know that we've received their posting message, and of course ask them for a family email that we can contact them with. Probably a lot along the lines as what you guys do. We immediately then will begin the process of providing them some information in order to ensure that they're prepared when they come for their HHT. So we give them welcome packages upon arrival. One of our big supports is outreach and welcome warm line calls, information briefings, they have welcome events, and we have different sponsorship programs with the family as well, with the parents and also with the youth. We try to keep them connected as they arrive. As I mentioned before, orientation and referral is a big one for us. So we provide them with Thriving In guides, and what those are, they're guides that kind of give them some insight into the different countries that they may be moving, give them some real fact as to what they're going to be addressing. I just saw a question here. Do they get the welcome package when they get there or when they get their posting message? So when they arrive for their HHT, we actually have a HHT package that's a little bit more scaled down than their welcome package, and that just helps to prepare them for kind of their pre-prep for actually getting on the ground. But their welcome package they get upon arrival. What we'll have them do is schedule a time with their support staff and just get to sit down and have a conversation, and then we provide them with everything that they need. But during the screening process, well, I shouldn't say during the screening process, after they get their actual posting message, when we do send out the information, the very first link that we will give them is obviously CAF Connection and then the Thriving In guide, because that guide has actually been prepared every year, updated by families who live in that location that can provide them some real insight into the locations that they're going into. Once they arrive on the ground, we have community orientation workshops, and so what that'll allow us to do is to actually take them into the communities where they're living, show them how to grocery shop, teach them some key words that they may need when they're out and about, show them how to use the transit systems, and just give them some some exceptional tips that are going to help them throughout their first few months when they're there. So they'll get information briefings. We provide them, of course, with host language training and some site-specific information and referrals as well. We give them, obviously, the CAF Connection information, and then in our case, we have europeforces.gc.ca that gives them information as well. We also have a Facebook Military Family Services Europe, and we'll go over that a little bit later. Another big component of the services that we provide is child and youth programs. As you can well imagine, like in any location that a family gets posted, the thriving of their children is the most important, and if the children are doing well, then they seem to be doing well. The one thing that is really essential that we are making sure families know prior to coming over is that daycare is an exceptional challenge in Europe. It's very important when speaking with families that they reach out to their local contact in the country that they're heading to in order to see what options are available, because in most cases it can be a big struggle. I see somebody chatting here. I'm just going to read that out. Concerned about screening when the family member is being screened for OUTCAN, should they not get as much information? Yes, so thank you for bringing that up. We actually have something, they're called social worker one-pagers, and they've been created by a large group of individuals, including MFS and our centers and our families in each location. We create a one-page Basically, these are the pros and cons of deciding to come and do an OUTCAN, and this is given to each of the social workers when they do their screening process, and we're in constant contact all the time with the social workers who are doing these screenings and with the chain of command to make sure that the families know as much as possible. I have to say that it's not a perfect system. We're constantly trying to improve it and really give it a realistic outlook to the families. Unfortunately, one of the big challenges is that when a family does get a posting to OUTCAN, they're so excited about coming that sometimes the reality of what some of these challenges are seem to kind of be pushed to the wayside until they get here. So this is really something that we're trying to include more and more when we have those initial conversations with the family so that they do understand that there's going to be some significant challenges. Yes, of course, coming to Europe is a wonderful opportunity. However, there will be challenges when it comes to education. All of these things that you brought up here, Noah, medical, financial, those are things that are reviewed with the family and the social worker, and we're trying to constantly make sure that the social worker is aware of some of the real challenges and that it's not just kind of a superficial conversation. So as mentioned, the programs that we have for the child and the youth are really important programs, and I would go as far as to say as they're our most used programs that we offer. So we have welcome packages for the children and the youth as well that helps them adapt into their new location. We have a craft program that we do for the kids that's all throughout Europe that they get craft mail out. So mail is essentially one of the most exciting things for most of the kids in Europe. We have a program called Friends on a Journey, which is little animals that travel with them in their passports. We have Home Alone, Babysitter's Course, all of these programs. I'm sure you guys have seen some of them in your locations. We do a youth leadership conference every single year where we bring all of the youth from all across Europe together and offer them a great opportunity for 2 days to just connect with other Canadians, share some sense of they have a lot of commonalities being posted to Europe, so this just provides them an opportunity to share that and just, talk about things like hockey and the things that they might not be able to talk about at their international schools. So again, I just want to go back to really ensuring that when you have a family that's going to be coming over, that you do have that conversation with them, that it's really important that they know the daycare challenges when they're bringing their kids over, know that there will be challenges with education, that they understand all of the things, all the components that fall under the education for their children as well. So those are the things that when families come over, they tend to feel almost alarmed and feel like they weren't made aware, and sometimes they were, but they were just so overwhelmed by being posted to OUTCAN that sometimes they miss those things. So if you're able to talk to your families and just let them know, it's important for them to do as much investigation as possible on their end prior to coming so they feel prepared. Employment and education. This is another really important topic to have with your families as well. Employment opportunities are also something that's rare in Europe, and that message needs to be conveyed as spouses come over with hopes of being able to work. There are some opportunities, but not in all locations, and it's very limited. So again, they should reach out to the relevant support center to help provide them with some insight into that. We do have a youth employment preparation program that we do where we put youth through kind of an interview resume course, and it allows them to potentially get summer employment through some of our partners in Europe. We have an adult employability program which helps prepare spouses to go back to Canada to work, and then we provide scholarship information. Family separation and reunion, that's something that you guys do in each of your locations as well. It's a little bit different in Europe. Obviously, we deal with mission-related absences, deployments, and TD, but it can be very different than in Canada and offer a new set of challenges based on the geographic location as well as the varying levels of kind of local support and resources. We support throughout deployments as well as we put a large emphasis on the separation component as families face a lot of anxiety being by themselves in a foreign country without the supports of their family and friends. So we have a lot of limited resources, so we do focus a lot of our programming around just being able to have those open conversations with them. Those warn line calls, again, we talked a little bit about that at the beginning. This is probably in most instances one of the only social outlets for some of our families. And I would say by far is one of the most important services we can provide to a family, especially when they're in a remote location without access to a physical center or anyone who speaks their language. Virtual programs. This is a program that is used greatly in Europe. As you can well imagine, it's challenging to have to be able to provide service delivery to families when you have two of in a country like Estonia or two of in Ukraine. And so we try to provide as many virtual programs as possible. We've actually had exceptional growth based on the increase in comfort levels in virtual program and the increase in the number of families that we have in remote locations. So it's a program that's greatly required in Europe based on geographic locations, as I mentioned, and it just provides families also the ability to connect with other Canadians, to share some of the struggles that they're going through, some of the challenges, and also share some of the great insights that they have been able to learn throughout their time in Europe. As you can see, we do lots of coffee mornings, remote socials. We actually have remote book clubs that do extremely well. We have a ton of different topics. It also provides some great volunteer opportunities for our families. If they have a skill set that they want to share or facilitate a certain program, this allows them that opportunity based on the fact that there are limited volunteer opportunities in some of their locations as well. So this is basically, I put our org chart just so you guys can kind of see. I mean, the one thing that I have to mention about this is we have an exceptional staff turnover in Europe. We actually, in the last 2 years, have had 100% staff turnover. And that's based on us, first of all, based on all of our staff being military spouses. And so they're only there for a certain amount of time. And we do not have the capability to hire civilians in those roles. And in some ways, that's a benefit because these positions are saved for a lot of the military spouses that we have in Europe. We have 4 on-site delivery centers, so 4 quote-unquote MFRCs, and 1 remote center with a manager at each of those locations. So the remote center and all of their staff, so you can see under Lisa Parker there on the second row, all of that staff are home-based staff who support our remote families. We have 7 program coordinators. Those are all on the right of your screen, or left, I guess, right, under the program coordinator team. So they develop programs for all of the centers. So it's not unique per center. They develop for all of Europe. And then we have community service providers who deliver the services and programs throughout Europe. It definitely can be a challenge based on us being in a constant transient kind of environment with our staff and trying to, you know, they are community members as well. It's very unique in Europe because our staff kind of mix and mingle with the community more than you would on a base. We have our contingency of Canadians there is smaller, and you use them so much as support services. They become kind of like your family. So there can definitely be some challenges in being a community service provider and also being a community member. But there could also be some great benefits to it because, as I mentioned, your community does become kind of like your family. So these are some of the resources, obviously, that we have available. CAF Connection, I can't encourage you to encourage your families enough to go to CAF Connection. We try as much as possible to constantly be uploading new Thriving In guides for the families, details about the locations that they're going, as well as a connection to a contact person in the locations they're going. And I had a family just come into my office last week, and they had 2 kids, and she asked me, she was there on her house hunting and asked how soon she can contact people to get her kids signed up for summer. As soon as their posting messages are in, if they haven't been contacted already, tell them to give us a call or send us an email. Obviously, send us an email. Call might be a little pricey. And we'll be happy to get them connected and get their kids signed up for different programs we have throughout the summer and provide them everything they need for when they get over on our side of the ocean. Facebook is obviously great if they can get on board that. We share a lot of stuff on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. I'll send all of these resources to you guys as well. Again, our WebEx platform, and then we send a quarterly newsletter out to every family so that they're kind of aware of what's going on all over Europe and what activities and events they can participate in and can be a part of with their family. So that's kind of a quick overview of who we are in Europe. I want to leave it open to questions now. I went over a few minutes over what I had hoped, but if you guys have questions, I'd be happy to help answer them in any way. And also, if you guys would like, I'd be happy to also send you the contacts in each of our 5 service delivery locations, so that when you do have families that are going to any of those locations, you're able to offer them a contact email right away. Any questions?
So feel free to type in the chat if you don't want to unmute your audio to ask some questions. So I have a few questions for you, Angie.
Sure.
Okay, so if you were to pick, at the end of the session, I'll ask whether or not we can upload a few of the things that you mentioned, like the social worker one-pagers and the list of contacts and that, just to the web exchange site so that people can access it quickly there. But if you were to pick the top 3 things that MFRC staff should do when they hear that a family is posted to OUTCAN, what would that be?
Top 3. So definitely number 1, I would say, is to get them associated with the CAF Connection site. I think it's one of the most amazing resources that we have now, and because we're spending so much time getting information onto the CAF Connection site, I would say that would be your number 1. Number 2, I'll provide each center with some contact emails, but definitely sending emails and ensuring the families are not afraid to get in touch with us and to ask as many questions as possible. That's what our staff is there for, and we want to really make sure that families feel informed. Ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. And secondly, for them to be requesting to get a Thriving In guide for the location, or thirdly, I guess, for the location that they're going to, because that Thriving In guide is going to prepare them for kind of all the idiosyncrasies that might come up in their house hunting, in their arrival, and in the months to follow.
Okay, excellent. And my second question for you is, what do you think are the top three benefits as well as the top 3 drawbacks to being posted OUTCAN? I imagine these are probably on the social worker one-pagers, but
yeah. So obviously the top 3 benefits are, number 1, travel. Of course, you're going to come over and see some amazing things in Europe. Number 2, sense of community. There's an amazing sense of community where you are, depending on where your location is, but even as an MFS family, there's a great sense of community. And number 3, I would say the connectivity that you're going to acquire with your family. Because you lean on each other so much when you come over, you really leave with a greater sense of connection with your family. With your kids, with your spouses, there's a great sense of kind of a commonality in sharing this experience together. So I would say those are the top benefits. The challenges, I mentioned them within my presentation. Definitely childcare is a challenge. Lack of employability is definitely a challenge. And culture shock. So just learning to live in a different culture with different languages, as much as that can be a benefit, it's also can be a significant challenge for families.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Are there any last questions before we end the session today? Feel free to write in the chat. And as well, just keep in mind that the reason why I provide the presenter's contact info here on the slide is so that if you do come up with some questions after the fact, then feel free to email Angie.
Absolutely. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, because I'm sure your families will have a lot of questions moving into this, as it does tend to be a very overwhelming posting for sure.
Okay, excellent. Okay, folks. So, Angie, if you could just stay on the line when everybody else signs off. For everybody else, thanks so much for joining us today, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, guys.
Are any of you guys still there? Hello?
Yep, we're still here.
I just had a question for Angie about the driving in. My internet completely broke up. I just want to know where to find that.
So they're all on the CAF Connection site. So depending on what country they're being posted to, they can find a Thriving In guide in most cases. The only time we won't have something developed yet is if it's a new country with a new set of families there. It's probably in the process of being developed. But generally speaking, in most of our countries, we have one that's developed and it's uploaded on the CAF Connection site under the country that they're posted to.
That's perfect. And for the posting handbooks, that's not something that could be put on CAF Connections, is it?
The posting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
Is that something that you guys have in your centers?
Yeah, just the posting guides, basically, that tells you everything. It's a welcome package. I'm sorry. It's basically a welcome package. It kind of gives you all the information about the place I'm in Yellowknife, so we're considered kind of like an OUTCAN place. So we send those out. Mostly, we try to do it while they're screening if we know that they are. Sorry, I'm getting into this right now, but
no, that's fine.
So I was just wondering if there was something like that, because we do have people that are going OUTCAN Europe, so just so they can have a good idea of what it is.
That would be the Thriving In guide. That would be the equivalent would be that. And actually, the HHT guide that we're providing for families now has been amended a little bit to bring in the military side as well. So it's a collaboration between the military and MFS, and so that provides them a different insight as well. And as soon as we get their posting message, that is immediately sent to them via email.
Yeah, getting a little bit of the military background, but information about the posting is really good for the families to know what the tempo is and all that stuff. Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Noah.